Works, Community Development, Parks, Recreation, and Culture, and General Administration and Non-Departmental is how we have to report everything in the CAFR. So we've done the budget to flow so you can compare groupings. And when we talk about the entire budget, by law, we are required to adopt a budget for every single fund. So we add all the funds together. We don't report it that way in the CAFR because of the different types of funds. But I can help break it down farther. I haven't broken it down to each individual department with a pie chart, but I can do that.
Okay. That's what I'm looking for.
I can do that.
And what I'm looking for is the fact that I want to compare apples to apples. If we are trying to make an argument, and I don't know that we are, I'm only saying if, that if we're trying to say that, for instance, public safety has a greater percentage of the budget if we only look at local dollars than what we're putting into education, I think we also have to consider that we've got a $2 million, a $2.5 million, or $3 million a year debt retirement on school expenditures versus $200,000 debt retirement on public safety, whatever the number is. I think we have to compare all of the costs that are included in each of the categories and each of the departments that we fund to get a true picture of what we are using local dollars for. And local dollars is what Mr. Seeley wants to look at.
I can do a separate summary and
So
break it down a little bit farther.
That's what I'd like to see. The second question I have is explain to me why we haven't had a reassessment, we haven't had any of that in this year's budget, that revenue from real estate is declining, and you're saying from the current fiscal year. I'm not sure I understand why, because the
Veterans exemption is not taxable, so it brings down your...
All right, but the exemption for what?
The veterans exemption comes off the tax rolls, so there is no taxable assessment for that. So it brought my assessment down.
I missed what you said in the very beginning as to what comes off the tax roll.
The veterans exemption.
Okay, the veterans exemption was approved last year, was it not? The constitutional amendment was approved 2 years ago?
Yeah, we did it. 2000.
It was effective in 2011. Right.
We did it last year.
Right.
We did it last
So
year.
I'm not sure I understand why we're going to have less revenue because of that, because it was effective in 2011. So why is it going to be less in 2013?
Become more widely owned.
Okay, so the increase in the people that are participating.
And then you also have the land that was taken off for the wildlife management area.
But have we not had any increase in, I'm sorry, Mr. Thomas, but new homes being built in the county at all?
I actually did have an increase in the assessment, but for new construction, but most of that was McKesson, which means I have to show it as a negative because we have to put that money in escrow.
I can tell you, I've gone through Ladysmith Village just recently, and I've certainly seen a number of homes that have been built in there, and certainly been built over the last year. So what you're saying is we've absolutely had no increase in building at all in the county.
We've had a small increase, and then we've had some other decreases. I mean, I'd get the numbers based on what they are in the first of the year, and I can't do anything more than that.
Well, I think, and is it in here as to what the numbers are for the decreases that you've had, that you're looking at, as far as the veterans exemptions and as far as the conservation easement exemptions or reductions? Is that in here somewhere?
No, but I can get that for you.
Provide it for us, please. Other questions, Mr. Thomas?
I just wanted to get a rough fuzzy math number. $89 million total budget. 86.9. 47% of 86.9 is what we spend on schools. So we're talking $40 million. That sounds right, ballpark?
That's about right.
Okay. That was the only thing I wanted.
That's just operations.
That would be operations and debt service.
You know,
It's everything.
Yeah,
that is everything.
operations and debt service, everything, right.
No, that 40 million is mostly the school budget. It does not include the debt service.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, wait a second. In our budget, debt service for any of the capital improvement items we do becomes a general fund line item.
That's correct.
So I built a $20 million school, paying $1 million a year for 20 years. That $1 million is in my general fund, so it doesn't look like that $1 million is being used for schools,
That's correct.
except in the CAFRA. But in the CAFRA, which is a different reporting item that you have to have and has certain requirements, really, I mean, to us, the CAFRA is not really a tool we can use. The CAFRA is more of an accounting tool that you use and goes up to the state for reporting, right? I mean, really.
You're required by law to have it.
Right, right. And the reason you're required by law is so it can go up the food chain for somebody else can make sure you're doing the right thing. All right, so 40 million is just operations and not debt service we're paying for schools.
That's correct.
So if I told somebody we spend $40 million a year for schools, I'm wrong because it's really more.
Yes.
I mean, just on the fuzzy math that I just did.
Yes.
You know, 47% of 86, I could do it really, but 40 is close enough. So I still have more debt service money in my general fund line item that goes to somebody else. And it's the same for all. It's the same for public safety. I got the debt service for their cars.
Sure.
That's correct.
All that. How can we, I mean, you're the accountant, how can we get a better understanding of all the monies from debt service that go where? Can I just, I mean, I'm going to pay them anyhow from the county perspective, but can I put that line item back in schools and public safety? And
I mean, there's a breakdown in your budget that has what all the debts are, and it's school debt and all other general fund debt in your detail under the debt retirement fund. Not all the monies that come out of the general fund, well, not all the monies that pay for debt service come out of the general fund. You all, years ago, dedicated the meals tax to pay for debt
sales
service.
tax goes to school debt service. Well, yeah, debt service.
Debt service. Communication taxes paid for debt service. The rental of the health department pays for debt service. So there's other revenues that help pay for debt service other than just the general fund. And you committed $1.25
It was a few years ago.
of the personal property to go to debt service.
So I mean, with all the documentation we have, and I guess it's kind of, to Mr. Seeley's point, Mr. Akers' point, I can't necessarily wrap my arms around all of the money I'm spending for any one agency because whatever debt service I incurred for that particular agency is now wrapped into my general fund obligations.
Pretty
Right.
much.
Okay. Can you make that happen?
I can do it outside of the budget. I can figure it out and give it to you, but your budget has to be adopted
Right,
according to law and according to
Right.
the type of funds.
But I need, but because of whatever shortcomings I have, I'm going to need some additional information to be
That's
able
fine.
to understand or explain, because I've got constituents in the audience that are coming to me and say, you know, based on this, you're only spending $40 million for schools. And I'm going to say, no, I'm spending $40 million plus whatever debt service it is. And they're going to say, prove it, and I'm not going to be able to prove it. So I need your help and I think the rest of the board wants that same kind of information to make sure we can understand what our commitments are to certain people. Because if public safety is saying they don't have enough money, and I can say, look, I got $10 million in debt service that I'm supporting for you, you should have enough money. And I think we need that kind of information as a supplement to the budget,
That's fine.
okay?
I think it's
We're not-
important. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, we're not asking to change the accounting practice. All we want to do is see where the money is allocated. So that helps us to have a better picture of where we're spending each dollar.
I
And
can
if there's
come
an
up with
area
something.
that, yeah, okay.
I
Thank
just,
you.
but your budget
We understand-
presentation,
we
why it has to
understand-
be this
Right,
way.
I understand how the budget has to be, but certainly we
I can
want to
give you
know
some
the
supplemental
additional
schedules to go
spending.
with it.
Absolutely.
So, if you look at all. I do have some other questions, Mrs. Hatcher. Was it you?
I have a question, but go ahead.
You have a question?
No,
Another question?
but go ahead. I can do it.
When we talk about personal property tax, and we're saying that we're having a 340, almost a $341,000 decrease because of, I'm not sure why, to be honest. If it's because that we increased the assessed value, we said that we would equalize because the rate would come, at 100% you'd come down to 312. At 312 or 313, at 100%, should have generated the same amount of revenue as the 625 did at a 50%.
But the assessments are down to start with. And historically, I mean, values of your cars go down.
Right, that's what it is.
And people aren't buying new cars. I mean, I cannot control that. The assessments are going down.
That's kind of understandable.
Well, I understand it to some degree, but
And I also take in consideration in the budget collections. I do not budget 100%.
personal property, what will we categorize the equipment that's going to be at the McKesson plant? How is that personal property?
That's
Now,
machinery and tools, isn't it?
is that not in personal property? I don't see a separate, or not, I don't know, is it? I'm sorry?
It's regular business personal property.
Okay, regular business, personal
But
property.
that was at the 350 rate before, that now goes down to...
No,
No,
it's
it's
still-
regular business personal property, which was the 625.
Okay.
McKesson's personal property, the equipment they put into that building, is that value included into your total dollars for personal property?
I don't have a number yet, and neither does Ms. Carter.
So you're saying it is not?
No, it is not.
Okay,
There's more in there.
okay. So they're going online, they're to be having a grand opening soon, so I'm assuming they're going to start operation soon. So now, would we not start generating that revenue effective
At
July
the
1?
time I did the budget, they had not filed their business personal property return so that we have an
And they
idea.
haven't done it as of yet?
That I do not
Have they done it
know.
as of yet? Okay, I won't ask you, I don't want to tell. But I think that should have been included in the budget process.
But I don't
because
have a
this-
number to put in there,
I
so.
understand. But I think that wording should have been put in here, so at least we knew that there was another source of revenue that we could be looking at when we're trying to work with this budget. Right now, the way it's been presented to us tonight, and don't get me wrong, I know you had a difficult job, and I appreciate everything that you've done on it, both of you, and everybody that's worked on it. I'm not being critical of it. But all I'm saying is the fact that when it comes to this board trying to make a decision, do we increase taxes by 4 cents? Do we increase them by 5 cents? Do we look at the personal property tax rate and increasing it, even higher than what you're suggesting? Or do we have to go through and make cuts? Or can we give additional funds to the schools or to somebody else? Based on what we have tonight, no, all of those things is not in play. But if we knew that there was another source of possible revenue, and certainly before this budget goes into effect, hopefully that information will be available to us, then that gives us another avenue to look at. Yeah, and I think Mrs. Carter will provide the numbers when she's able to sit down and decipher and provide and get. Okay.
Some rough idea, but we're not going to be announcing.
Individual, I understand, but again, this board needs to know the amount of revenue that's going to be increased. Instead of having a $340,000 decrease in personal property tax revenue, you could see a $100,000 increase, or a $50,000 increase, or only a $100,000 decrease.
We can give you more information later.
Thank you. I think the board would appreciate that, and I think the board needs that information in order to really decipher what the budget proposal is all about. Okay. All right. I think we've probably.
Can we get the information we've asked for electronically, please? I'm going to be out of town next week, so I know you're going to have it. The numbers you're going to work for together,
Oh, yeah.
can you just send those to me in an email or something like that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. And if it's okay. Did you have a question, Mr. Taylor?
Well, I have a comment more than
Okay,
a
sure.
question. I guess my concern is, first of all, what we're saying tonight and the terms that we're using and the expressions that we're making, most people have no idea what we're talking about. But I think that when we look at this budget, I hear the proposal that was made tonight is level funding. That says to me that if we did everything that was asked in this budget, we're not going to give any department any more funding to generate, we're not going to generate any more funds to do any of the things that any of the departments have asked us to do. I don't care what you call it. I just don't think the people of Caroline County are going to accept that. We're talking about projections. We have not addressed one single request that any department or any have asked us to. And to me, that's the meat of what we're talking about. We can play with numbers all we want. We can find ways to say that, well, this really isn't a deduction, or this really is a deduction, or we really didn't use this much money here, we really used this much money here. But at the end of the day, if you ain't going to buy no school buses, you're going to have a problem. At the end of the day, you can call it, I don't care what you call it. You can call it campaigning. Yeah, I campaign. Because I want to see the students in Caroline County on safe buses. I'm not saying you got to raise taxes to do it. If we can find money in here to do it, then that's great. But I want them in a safe situation. All I'm saying is I would like to see figures and numbers and statements in ordinary terms so that the average citizen understands what we're talking about. And I don't think that's the case. And finally, I would say it's still our job to find a way to provide services. And when I see a budget that says we're not going to do anything to address any needs of any department in this county, then that bothers me. And it ought to bother y'all too.
Well, I think that certainly it bothers us from the standpoint, I think all of us can say it bothers us from the standpoint that we are not in a position to do more than what we are going to be able to do in this budget. I think we all have to be realistic. To be honest with you, I haven't seen the request from the departments. Now, the only request that I have seen or heard about has been what came from the schools. And that was a $2.8 million increase requested by the school board. Now, I haven't seen that public safety. I don't know, did they come and ask for a lot of additional revenue? You know, I think we made it very plainly up front of the process that it was going to be a level funded year, basically. And everybody, I imagine, I don't know because I haven't seen them, but you know, I have to assume that everybody came in with that thought process in mind, that it was a level funding process. So again, we're going to do all that we're going to try to, we're going to do it.
But if I were that department, I would not come in with that in mind. If I were law enforcement, or if I were fire and rescue, I would not ask you for a rescue squad just because you told me you won't give me one.
Well,
I let you know that that's what I need. Now, if you don't find a way to give it to me, then I guess I have to do what I got to do. But I'm not going to not ask for it.
But there's a difference between needs and wants.
Big difference.
There's a big difference. And when we look at budgets, it's our responsibility to take care of every dollar and save every dollar possible. People across this country are cutting budgets every day because of the economy. We didn't make it that way. But we have to deal with the reality of what we have. What we have here is right now a poor economy, and we have to work within the budget. We cannot put it on the back.
You don't do anything.
We can't put it on the back, everything on the back of the taxpayer.
And I can tell you, you don't have to fix it this year, but it's going to be double next year.
I think,
And I'm not saying that you're going to do everything that everybody asks, but you can't do nothing.
Alan, maybe you should get Mr. Taylor to help you with that budget.
I don't think that I don't think we're doing nothing. I think the mere fact that we are striving to not have layoffs and not reduce salaries of the employees, that is doing something. And we're providing the same level of service. That's doing something. What we have said tonight, as well as I have heard, is the fact that we are not going to be able to do more than what we've done in the past year. And that's it. That's it. That's all we've said. But we've said that because we have tried, this board has tried to be forward-looking and thinking and saying we needed to increase their sewage treatment plant. We need to provide additional funds for the school here in Bowling Green. We have to pay for it now. The time has come to pay for it. And so that is what is driving a great deal of this budget, is the debt retirement on the expansion of the wastewater treatment plant, making the drinking water that we provide to county citizens drinkable, and also to provide money to pay for the schools that we've already committed ourselves to.
And I have no problem with that.
No, what?
I have no problem with that.
4.5 million
All
for
I'm
schools?
saying is,
No.
I hear
The 1.5.
this proposed budget not addressing hardly any of the needs that we have, and we're saying we're not going to do that. I've heard people say, this budget is contingent upon a 4-cent tax increase. I've heard folks say, I ain't going to do that. And what I'm saying is, even if you did that, you're still not solving the problem. And again, I'm not saying raise taxes 10 cents, raise taxes. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I hope that we can find a way, through whatever, not to address all of them, because we're not going to be able to do that. But I just don't want us to go so far in the other direction that we ruin every bit of progress that we made over the last 20 years. And that's what I'm afraid is going to happen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor, and we appreciate, and I understand where you're coming from. You make some good points, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Hatcher. Thank you, Mr. Barden. You've done a good job, and we appreciate your efforts and all that you've done in putting this together. You did a great job, too.
Hey, do what you got to do.
I think you ought to keep doing it. No problem.
All right. First reading, next item on the agenda is going to be first reading of proposed amendment to Article 18 of Caroline County zoning ordinance to expand membership of the Board of Zoning Appeals to 7 members. Mr. Fincher.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next budget agenda item is a proposal to expand the Board of Zoning Appeals from its current membership of 5 to 7. Unlike the Board of Supervisors, which agreed on a 6-member board, by code, the BZA must either be 5 or 7 members. Hence, our proposal to go ahead and increase it to 7. Mr. Black has already made his recommendation for the BZA appointment, and with that driving the need to change 2 to 7 members. So the proposed amendment would increase from 5 to 7. It would make all the other technical adjustments related to a 7-member board. As part of the redistricting, one of the current BZA members was actually moved into Mr. Underwood's district. So Mr. Underwood actually has 2 representatives on the BZA now. We would suggest that that one person that was moved in continue to serve as the at-large position until that term expires, and then the board as a whole can deal with the at-large position at that time. And I'm sure one of you will ask me when that term expires, and I meant to look it up before I came tonight and didn't do so.
What are they, 4-year terms, 5-year terms, 8-year terms, 6-year terms?
5-year terms.
5-year terms. It probably expires next year because it was the appointment for the Madison district in the past, and he was moved over to Mr. Underwood's district, so I appointed him. So it's probably about another year left.
The Planning Commission will actually hold a public hearing at its meeting on the 21st and make a recommendation that night. Normally, we would come to the board after the Planning Commission made its recommendation. However, since Mr. Black has gone ahead and made his request to the Circuit Court, we came to the board tonight in anticipation of the Planning Commission acting on this at their 21st meeting. So we would ask that you allow us to advertise this for public hearing at your April 3rd meeting.
Okay.
Are these, Mr. Fincham, are these term limited like social services?
No, sir.
Okay. So nobody automatically has to roll off?
No, sir. And if you will recall, you actually make a recommendation to the Circuit Court.
Right.
As a quasi-judicial body, the court actually appoints the individual.
Right. I understand that this is a court-appointed position. We just basically ask the judge if he'd do that. I was just curious if people would roll off like social services automatically after.
Is there a motion to put this to public hearing on the 3rd of April? Motion by Mr. Thomas. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Taylor that we move that this public hearing be held on April the 3rd. Discussion of the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. Item number 13, discussion of Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries request for use of county-owned land for canoe board landing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we actually received an email and it had a follow-up meeting with representatives of the Virginia Department of Games and Inland Fisheries. As you will recall, they've actually acquired a piece of property up off of Page Road and created a new Mattaponi Wildlife Management Area. In conjunction with that, they're looking for opportunities to expand recreational access, particularly to the Mattaponi River. They have identified a site in Milford that they believe would be an ideal location for a canoe or small boat access point, and inquired from staff whether the board would be willing to enter into some type of agreement to allow them to use that site for a boat access. And they would also construct a small parking area as part of that. And this is simply on your agenda to see whether there is any interest on the part of the board to go forward and work with DGIF. Depending on the scenario, it may or may not require a public hearing at some point in time in the future. We have not done all the background work waiting to see whether the board was interested in us going forward.
What is this matter? Without a doubt.
And actually, I'm sorry.
About 6 months ago, I got a call from an individual who had read about he would be able to duck hunt in the new preserve that's just off 605 where they're talking about doing this. So he came from some great distance and he's handicapped. Got to the site and they told him that it was water accessible. There was almost no place to park and he used his wheelchair and went a good ways and got stuck. all on a recommendation from DGIF in a magazine article that he read that he could actually hunt there. Now, I've been to the site because when he called and then he got the runaround from DGIF and they told him to call me on the Board of Supervisors to solve that problem. Now, I've been to the site. You can't drive but about 500 feet into it, and there's almost no place to park. And you can't get to the water from anywhere that you can drive to. So my question to DGIF is, what is their plan to get access to the water that somebody could use to do this? Because right now, it is the wilderness. And when I saw this, I was like, I've been there, tried to do that, went through a set of complaints. They ran him all over the place about who to complain to because it wasn't them. And what I don't want to do is set up something that we all end up with phone calls because people can't get to the canoe access that they claim is there. And I don't see any place in here where there's a plan or a map or any idea of how they're going to do that because I'm not sure they understand the topology of that place. So I guess that's my reserve about the whole thing. I'm not against a canoe drop or a small boat entrance, but they're talking about a pile of money to get to it from where they are now.
Is your question related to boat access on the wildlife management area itself or on this particular 2-acre site?
The 2-acre site that we own is great, but here we are, we have almost, what is this, 1,200 acres they put in? How many acres was that, Mrs. Carter? 1,700 acres that came off the tax rolls that DGIF keeps claiming that people can use. And I challenge anybody to drive in there because you'll quickly be at 6x6s that you can't go past and you almost can't turn around in, and nobody can use. And it came off the tax rolls, and now they want to grant use that I don't think they can grant because it's just not possible.
We can certainly continue this to the next meeting. We tried to get Mr. Hart here tonight.
I'd like to have him stand in front of me and explain this because the guy that was stuck, I mean, he was really upset and nobody in DGIF would help. They told him to call one of the Board of Supervisors. Well, we weren't even invited to the opening of that facility, much less, and I went and explored the place on that phone call just to see what was going on. Those are my comments.
We can bring this back to the April 3rd meeting if that's okay with the board.
But I'd like to see something. I'd like to see an individual from DGIF here to talk about this.
Okay. And actually discuss their plans for the management area itself.
Yeah, because they want us to give access, and if you put in there, there's no place to come out. If they put in here, that's a good long canoe ride. Having floated that river many times, you better be moving because when it gets dark, you may not be to Milford yet. And I'm not sure people understand that. And if it's summertime and you've got to pull that canoe at all, you could be long after dark. I did it once. I can tell you from experience.
That's fine, Mr. Seeley. We can get them back for the April 3rd meeting. Explain their whole plan for recreation. Okay.
Mr. Fincham, could I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if it's my memory, which it could be. How did the county acquire this land? Do you know?
No, sir. I can go back and pull the deeds on it.
I would like to know that. I'm assuming it's before my time, but that doesn't mean it wasn't yesterday.
It hasn't been in the last 20 years. It's well back beyond that. So, but I'll pull the deed references on it.
Because this is, I mean, on the map you gave us, the blue area that you colored is the site they're proposing.
Yes, sir.
Which is surprisingly close to where a Milford train station could be. It's on the other side of the road, but it is surprisingly close. So I would just like to find out where we got that land from, so I can weigh the benefits of the state having it versus the county having it.
We can actually keep it, even if the board were to agree to enter into some type of joint use. we can still retain ownership. But I'll have DGIF here for the April 3rd meeting.
Thank you.
All right. 13A, which is
13A,
the
Habitat.
Habitat for Humanity request tonight that we give them some type of break on the connection fees, availability fees for a home that they wish to build in the Don area. They have gone, yes. But I believe that we told them we were going to discuss it.
I'd like to hear what the real cost to us is, because that was news to me.
Mr. Shebel has gone. He indicated that 3 out of the $15,000, that approximate $3,500 was for availability fees, which is not a direct cost to the county. So that would leave the 11.5, 11.5. That would be a direct cost for putting in the tank, because it's going to be in the Dawn, the Phase 1 Dawn area and system. So that's to put a tank in, that's to put a pump in, and those type of things. He indicated it would be about 11.5 for that cost.
Can we get him to at least give us that in writing so that we can at least show Habitat where we are? Because when they first described it to me, I thought it was a straight connection.
I did too.
And that's why, so when Mr. Shebel started with that, I was like, that's new. So could we get that in writing and send them a letter that we're going to look at and actually send them what we get so they can see what we're talking about for cost?
And I think that we could say that
Except the
tonight.
tank and all that. There's a lot of hardware that I don't know that we can.
We would waive whatever costs are not direct labor costs,
And material costs.
labor and material. And then,
We would waive the availability fee.
Right.
And only the availability fee, which would be about $3,500.
I'm just trying to be fair to them so they
I
understand what
I
the,
understand, and I think we need to be fair to them because, again, they are improving
Right.
the life of
Right.
an individual, a
Right.
family that in that area. So we need to do what we can to help that process along.
I agree.
Okay. Is there a motion that the board will waiver? And that's the other question I had as far as waivering plus versus making a reimbursement type of deal. Because I know we've always had problems with waivers and we've had to do reimbursements.
We have to do reimbursements. I think.
All right, so we're going to have to, but we will reimburse the Habitat of Humanity, or for Humanity, the availability fees, whatever that dollar amount is. Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion that we waive
That we
the we will reimburse the availability fee. And I'd also like to send them what the total cost so that they know what that is. But that would be my motion.
waive the availability and no direct labor.
No direct material or.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Mr. Sealer, seconded by Mr. Thomas, and you heard the motion as to we would agree to waive the availability fees only. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. I believe I gave you, the board is going
We're
to,
gonna do closing comments first. County
well,
Administrator.
County Administrator's report.
Only comment I have is we need to start scheduling dates for the budget work sessions and just let staff know how you want to go about doing that.
What do you think we need, sir?
Well, I'm assuming we do.
All right. We need to look at that, and we'll certainly look at that at the first meeting in April as to, or the next meeting in March. Closing board comments. Mr. Black?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Taylor?
Not at this time. Oh, I just had one final thing.
Go
I
ahead.
forgot. There was a lady, a Mrs. Woodpark Sims, who wrote a book on Union High School, which is this building that we're in.
Right.
And that book has since been published. And it's available in the Visitor Center and other areas locally. She has been in the county and she's done book signing. Well, she is going to be visiting us at our next meeting, which I took the liberty of asking her to come. And I apologize for not discussing that with the board first, but I did ask her to come. I just think it's a a milestone in Caroline's history. And I would just like the board to know that she will be here on the 27th.
Okay.
And hopefully the board can recognize her for her efforts at that time.
All right.
That's all I have.
And aren't you glad somebody convinced you to save this building?
I was very instrumental in that
Yeah.
also.
All right, we'll pat each other on the back. in a
You were
few
the
minutes.
next vote.
Mr. Underwood,
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Seeley,
No comments at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thomas.
Just a quick one, Mr. Chairman. I found in my briefcase, because I never throw anything away, an old listing of utility availability fees that we waived. And I believe I gave board members copies. I think this came from 2010 maybe, or 9. But it listed $1,111,000 of waived utility fees. And we discussed how we're reimbursing the utility fund. It looks like it's not making as much money. But we've never factored into all of the times we waived money. So it's not really as bad. And I would like Mr. Parton to ask Mr. Schiebel, since he's not here, if he could update.
Oh, that's magic.
Well, I'll be. Okay. I would like to still ask staff, since Mr. Schiebel works for Mr. Parton, if they would have Mr. Schiebel update the utility availability fees that we've waived in the past, so we could have a legitimate comparison of what we're doing. That was the only thing I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Wonderful job, Mr. Schiebel.
The only request I'd have of staff is to, if you would, get with the Sheriff's Department and find out the details. We all read recently in a press report that one of the deputies certainly went into a burning home and was able to save the lady in that home, saving her life. And I think we need to recognize that individual for heroic operation. And so I'm going to ask staff to get in touch with the Sheriff's Department. I guess Mr. Moses is going to be the one to provide the information, and let's get some details and have a recognition for this young man, Mr. Connor, next meeting. All right?
Can we try to find Ms. Bolden at the same time? Can we?
Yeah, we can certainly see.
Can we try to find the occupant of the house? You know who it is? You know who it is?
We have a name.
Wonderful.
All right, closed meeting, Mr. Thomas. I believe you have a
I have the
motion.
Let's make sure my arms are long enough. I move that this board convene and close meeting pursuant to the personnel exemption of Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia to discuss candidates for the county administrator position.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Seeley.
Oh,
And you heard the motion.
does this include the freeze we got?
The freeze, yeah, this is.
No, that includes freeze. That's all right. That's been said.
Mr. Underwood and I would like to discuss the freeze we've got.
We want to discuss this further.
That's over with.
I think we would like to.
Discussion on the motion.
We would like to continue
All in
with
favor,
the
vote by
freeze.
saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The board will enter into closed session. Mr. Taylor,
I so certify.
Mr. Underwood,
I so certify.
Mr. Seeley,
I so certify.
Mr. Thomas,
I so certify.
and I so certify as well. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Taylor, second by Mr. Underwood. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
You want this? Or you have to give this back to Alan?
Yeah, we're going to